Okay, welcome everyone to the Ward 1 NPA meeting on Wednesday, March 11th, 2026 at the Friends Meeting House on North Prospect. I'm Carol Livingston and I'll be facilitating the meeting. Gretchen is going to be taking our notes, so thank you very much. One of the more onerous jobs that we have on steering committee. So I'd like to just go through the agenda. There are hard copies out on the table if you're interested. So starting at 6:30, we're going to go around in a moment and just introduce ourselves and indicate sort of where you live in town. And then if you have an announcement, that's probably a good time to give that announcement. And then we'll move on to Speak Out. Speak Out is an opportunity for people to bring up issues that they're concerned about and definitely want the rest of us to be aware of and have some discussion about even. So, and again, that's going to be shorter tonight because of the next item. Your steering committee has some business that we want to run by you for a little bit. Every April 1st, April 1st is when the steering committee gets voted on or gets voted on every year. And so we need to introduce the slate again and ask for any folks who might be interested in joining us. So that needs to happen. And then we'll vote at the April meeting. The annual priorities for City Council, that's the issue that Jonathan and Carter created the resolution and was approved by all the NPAs. And that's something that we need to do as an NPA, is identify 3 to 5 issues that we think are pretty important that the City Council bring to us if they come before the City Council. And then finally, next month, we'll have an update of what our budget looks like, but wanted to have some discussion because it looks like we have probably $1,000 out of the $3,000. And we can talk briefly about that when we get there. So that if we don't, and we're more than fine to give it back to the general fund. And that's certainly an option, but there are also some other options that the steering committee came up with, but also you all may come up with too. So that's what that discussion is about. And then Allie and Carter. Carter is home with sick kids. So he's hopefully going to be talking to us online. And hopefully Allie will come by then as well. Very busy people. We have Matt and Gary, who will also be speaking about the school commission, just giving us an update on where we are with the budget, et cetera. And then finally, we have Jacob Flanagan, who is going to talk to us about how to reduce fossil fuel at home. He is also sick. But he is going to give his presentation online. So thank you for being here in sickness and in health. Really appreciate you coming. And again, feel free to get up and take care of what you need with food and drink. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Okay, so we have Carter, Jean, and Sophie online. That's great. Why don't we, so I don't forget, why don't we go ahead and start there? So Carter, if you could introduce yourself, you need to unmute and introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Sophie and then Jean.
Hey everybody, Carter, 22 or Grove Street, Ward 1 City Councilor. Good to see everybody.
Great, Sophie.
Hi, Old East End Neighborhood Coalition and Chase Street.
And Jean.
Hi, Jean Hopkins on East Ave at Co-Housing. Glad I can zoom in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for being here. Rob, do you want to start us in back? And there should be, there you go. Gary has the mic.
I am Rob Gutman from North William Street, and I'm on the NPA Steering Committee.
Gretchen Platt, North Street. I'm also on the steering committee.
Gary Golden, Calarco Court, which I think tonight is going to be our best represented city in the ward.
Julie Springer, Wilson Street.
Angie Chapel, Sokol, North Prospect Street.
I'm Catherine Verman. I live on North Street.
Mark Demers, I live on Loomis Street.
Sarah Morris, I live on Calarco Court.
Evan Horn, Calarco Court.
I'm Jonathan Chappell Sokol. I'm on the steering committee and I live on North Prospect Street. And is it time to make an announcement?
Sure.
Very, very quickly. I think Barbara has put a couple of flyers in the front, and this is about the community, the CEDO Celebrate Burlington, which is looking for nominations for a few awards that the city gives out every year. The Blumenthal Award, the Clavell Award, and the Schatz Awards. And I think the flyers have information on it. And I also copied off some of the info with a QR code if you want to actually fill out a form and nominate somebody. So I can leave these in the front or something. People can help themselves to them if they're interested. Thanks.
Okay, over to Sharon.
Sharon Busher, East Avenue. And just to follow up with what Jonathan said, this Celebrate Burlington was a really big deal, and it stopped when COVID happened. But it was an annual event. There was in Contois, and people came together, and it was a way to acknowledge the people behind the scenes. Sometimes they weren't behind the scenes, but oftentimes they were doing wonderful things for our community that we didn't know anything about. And so it doesn't have to be someone whose name is recognized. It can be someone in the neighborhood, someone you know in the city that is doing stuff that's really matters. And the awards Herb was part of Ward 1, and so he is a core part of that. And Peter Clavell was mayor, and Ken Schatz was the city attorney. And each one of them represented a part of Burlington that was vibrant and wonderful. And two of them are still alive. Herb is no longer with us. But anyways, I just want to speak about it. And I'm hoping that people can come together and celebrate whoever gets nominated and whoever gets the award.
Great, thank you.
I also have an announcement. Earhart is not here tonight, and he didn't ask me to do this, but he's on the Planning Commission, and they had a meeting last night. And we're going to be talking about Plan BTV, that's 2050, and you've got that on the agenda. But the Planning Commission is also finally going to deal with affordable housing. And so there's going to be a joint committee of the City Council Ordinance Committee and the Planning Commission to deal with inclusionary zoning, which is one of the mechanisms that you can mandate affordable housing. It's controversial. It's been in place since I got on the City Council. And when I got on the City Council, it was the late 80s, but it had just been implemented. And it's effective. There are going to be discussions about upgrading it, but I hope that we can be engaged. The joint meetings are going to start in May. And I just think that this is something that is at the core of our housing crisis, is affordability. And I just wanted all of you to know about it and be able to track it if it interests you. So thank you. I don't know where this mic goes. Oh, to Sarah?
So just a quick question for Carter, Jean, and Sophie. Can you hear okay?
Yes, I hear
Beautiful.
great.
Yes,
Beautifully, yes.
very good.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, Sarah.
Cyril Flash off of East Avenue, co-housing.
Richard Hilliard.
Sam Doherty, Colonial Square.
Great, thank you, folks. And also welcoming Barbara Turnbull, who is our host, and Charlie Giannoni, who is our intrepid CCTV person. So thank you so much, both of you, for being here always. All right. Any other announcements before we move on to Speak Out? Okay. All right. So this is just an opportunity for people to raise issues that have come up, that they're thinking about, that they'd like us to be aware of. Sort of what Sharon sort of did in her announcement, but she's also indicating, something that's really important to her. So, please feel free to bring up issues that you're concerned about and that, or that you appreciate something that's happening. Do we have folks who have something that they would like to add? Yes, Catherine, do you have a mic? So what we mostly have are we're going to try the wireless mics a lot tonight. Okay. Has to be green. Yeah, there you go.
In a recent Front Porch Forum, I think it was a man on Tebow, am I saying that right? Spoke about the trash that's around the Ward 1. And, I went out. I had actually that day gone for a long walk and seen the snow had melted and there was a ton of trash out there, a ton of it. And Green Up Day is not till early May. So that's a long time. That's like 6 weeks before we really start to pick that up. So I don't know whether I've always spoken how much that time we came together and put the gardens in. I wonder if there's a way that we could have a NPA trash pickup time.
So any feedback about that idea? Yeah. So do you think it makes more sense to have something when we're all there together doing it, or?
I don't know. I mean, I think something that came from us would be great rather than just someone putting it in a Front Porch Forum. And maybe we could have a couple of times. I know that there's these ways that they're cleaning up downtown Burlington and they have certain days that they're meeting. Maybe we could set aside, a couple of Saturday mornings or something like that where people went out and.
Okay. What do you all think? Would you like to set a couple of dates right now so that we could if people want to meet, we could meet here, I guess, outside and then go from there? Next couple of Saturdays, is Saturday make sense? As a good time? Julie, what do you think? Say it again?
Yeah, I like to do that kind of thing so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of my day.
Yes. So at 9 or 10 in the morning is what you're suggesting.
Cleanup crew meets at 7:30, which is the earliest minute that the sun's always up. It passes back and forth.
Maybe
So it could be earlier.
Maybe we could have a period of time where people could come early, or maybe people could come a little bit later and.
Okay. Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, I also noticed the trash when the snow melted. I was going on a walk along Riverside. And one thing I noticed as well is that there's a pretty significant unhoused community on the side there, which I think might be a source for a lot of the trash. So I don't really know how we deal with that. But I did notice an uptick in that presence. So.
Not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
In the past on Green Up Days, we were told that someone else was going to, if there was an abandoned encampment, that someone else would handle that, and we weren't supposed to touch that.
Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably a source of a lot of that I had to.
Okay. Okay.
I'm wondering if we could just put something out on Front Porch Forum saying the NPA encourages you all to go out, the next 2 Saturday mornings if you can, between the hours of 8 and 10, not meeting anywhere, nothing formal. And if you can pick up trash, it'd be great.
Okay. Great.
Could be.
Do have a role. My son works for the city of Burlington, and he gave me a big roll of those Green Up bags.
Oh, wow.
not a big roll, but I have a whole bunch
You
of
have
them.
some, okay. So that would be great. Carter,
No, I was just gonna say oh, I got echo going. Sorry. I've got it's very timely. I was just talking to Councilor Bergman about this very thing. They did the Old North End cleanup last year and the last couple of years, I think, and it was more focused on having like big dumpsters for sort of bulk trash drop off. Especially when students or I mean, just around June 1st, a lot of people switch apartments, but particularly younger folks. And then we have like all this stuff on the side of the road all of a sudden that I used to benefit greatly from, honestly, because I would go get free stuff when I was in college. But trying to bring that back again this year and maybe expand that and also sort of focus on a street cleaning piece and do it a little bit earlier because, like you said, Catherine, cleanup day is like a month and a half away. Anyway, I'm going to touch base with Jean on Friday again about it, is when we were scheduled to talk about it. So I can just try to keep that as coordinated as makes sense with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't really have in mind a big green up day kind of effort where you get old tires and all that stuff. Just more the trash that's around the sidewalks, the green space.
yep, yep. Like I have a friend who, whenever she goes for a walk, carries a plastic grocery bag. And she just puts stuff in that as she goes. And I think that's some of it too, is to just be mindful that that's a routine that, we could do at any point. And then we throw it out in our own garbage. I mean, that's it. Then we're not worrying about trying to dispose of it in any kind of organized way. But so Julie, you're suggesting putting something in Front Porch Forum that came up at Ward 1 NPA, and that we encourage people to go out the next several Saturdays or whenever makes sense, and collect garbage, and maybe let us know that you were able to spend some time doing that. I think that would be great.
Individual doing that, like posting on our Front Porch Forum.
Well,
because we only have the one, right?
we're all in the same one.
So Julie, if you want to do that, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Anybody else with a speak out issue or an issue you'd like to just raise with the rest of us? Yeah, Gretchen, do you have a mic?
I probably should have done this as an announcement, but I am the lead parent volunteer for the Edmonds Elementary School play musical. And we have a show Friday night and a matinee at 2 of Peter Pan. And it'll be a great show. So you should come check it out. I've been working really hard on it.
Thank you, Gretchen. Welcome, Matt. Anybody else have an announcement that they want to make? Anything else from Front Porch Forum you can think of that you think we should spread or have questions about or? Okay, all right, great. Okay, we're going to go ahead if we could. We're ahead of time, which is unusual. Well, not that far ahead. To our NPA business. And if we could, Barbara, do you have that list of stuff? Would you mind projecting that at this point? And Gary, why don't we start? This isn't nepotism at all, even though he's my partner. So we had to ask some stranger, we had to ask some stranger to read the slate. So I think is it at the bottom, Barbara? Or maybe I didn't make it on, this one didn't include it. There it is. Okay, good. All right, Gary.
So I believe the current steering committee members have all offered to be.
Sorry, Gary.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry about that. So the current steering committee members as a slate have all offered to return. So let me read those names off. Carol Livingston, Jonathan Chappell-Sokol, Sam Doherty, Gretchen Platt, and Rob Gutman. At this point, I think I can make the motion that these be considered and be voted on next month. Is that I think I have to do the slate first and then I can offer.
Do a motion actually at all.
Okay, we won't do that.
So,
So are there any others who would be interested in serving on the steering committee? Um,
and it's it's the couple of hours a month here, and then it's probably another couple of hours planning the meetings. So that's the time commitment. So Gretchen, thank you for saying it's fun.
And has anybody mentioned the enormous power that goes along with this position?
I think if you're new to the ward or new to the city, or if you've been here a while and you just haven't really engaged, this is a way to wade in, to tiptoe in to finding out how to bring agendas forward, how to represent the members of the NPA. It's a really good start, and it may be your pinnacle. That's maybe where you want to end, but it's just a really good way to start. And it's really important to get new people into it. And I can highly recommend it. As a member of this ward for a long time, I didn't initially join the NPA, but when I did, I found it very rewarding, and I ended up being on the steering committee for a while. And that was insightful. It taught me how to have patience and taught me tolerance. I still am working on all of those things, but I just want to highly recommend it for the people that aren't here tonight, that might be listening, who are thinking about, how do I want to get involved? I want to get involved just a little bit more. And you've got seasoned people who are willing to do it again, so you can learn from them. So it's perfect. Anyways, I just want to highly recommend it.
Thanks, Sharon, very much.
all right. So anyone interested?
And we certainly,
Or think about
it
next
this
month.
next month.
Yep.
Because you certainly could, ante in next month as well. It's just next month is when we need to vote.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary. Okay, Jonathan. Jonathan's going to talk about letter A, Barbara. So if you could jump us up to that. Sure. You want to come up here and maybe just explain.
Thank you. I think the other thing I would say about being a member of the steering committee is that it's a really good way to get to know community leaders. It's a way to, you write to Chapin Spencer, you write to people in the city, they get to know who you are. And so just as another argument to do it, it's a very low level introduction to the whole city. So with that, last month, we talked a little bit about this. We handed out a survey. Am I in your way?
No.
Where I could sit, you were sitting. We need to provide our city councilors actually with a list of 3 to 5 items that we think are critical to Ward 1, that when the city council is deliberating them, or when when administration departments are working on them, that they come talk to us, that they come to the Ward 1 NPA. And we ran the survey last month. There wasn't a huge number of responses, but these were the responses, and these are roughly in order of popularity. The ones at the bottom had just a vote or two, and the ones at the top had multiple people who talked about them. But we want to make this list and then vote on which ones we want to have as the Ward 1 issues that we want to come to the NPA before any major decisions are made. So what's on the list right now? The development agreements and MOUs with the university and the medical center. Traffic management that could impact pedestrians. Tax burden redistribution. I think that's really a reference to that advisory, the advisory question that didn't end up on the ballot on town meeting day. But that sort of thing where there is something that's going to happen that's going to change the way taxes are distributed among residents of the city. Any advisory group or ad hoc committee recommendations. So taking it from an advisory group, as was the case with this tax advisory question, the $30,000 question, or any ad hoc committee recommendations, they should come to Ward 1 before they're voted on by City Council. Use of parks and development of open space, the municipal development plan, activity impacting Ward 1 infrastructure, waste and recycling, the city budget in general, and anything else. And I guess this is the point. If you have questions about the ones that are listed, or if you think that there are some that aren't listed that should be, now's the time to do that.
Maybe I understand the list. And I understood the direction I think that came from you or the memo saying that you're gonna select the top 3 and then it's going to go in a resolution to the city council or what? I don't, can you explain
So
what's gonna happen with the top 3?
the resolution about the relationship between the NPAs and the city council, one of the clauses in it says that each ward can let the city know, and I think that implicitly it was through their city councilors, that there are some issues, that there are some decisions that should not be made unless there's a discussion at the city council. I'm sorry, at the NPA. And so this is just a list of the ones that we think really need to come to us before a decision was made. This is all kind of sourced out of the last time there was the UVM MOU development agreement, and the CETO director was in this room, and somebody said, "Don't go signing anything without bringing it to us first." And his answer was, "Well, we don't know. We may not have time to do that." And it just seemed like an irresponsible answer from a city where our lives are so controlled by what happens with the university. So this was an effort, and this was agreed upon. This was passed by the city council. It was signed by the mayor as a way to give us a little bit, maybe to slow down some decision making, but maybe more important, to allow us to at least have a conversation before the decisions are made. So.
Just leave them on all the time.
Yeah.
So thank you for that clarification. Now, you were opening it up for questions or
Questions about these or other ones? This is just the beginning of the list.
that the steering committee did a really good job in listening to our last meetings, all of our meetings, and kind of generating this list or however you came about it. My thought as I look at this is that the municipal development plan is certainly important, but they're supposed to engage with all of us. We're supposed to have a lot of opportunity for input. So I'm trying to look at things that maybe wouldn't necessarily come our way. And I think that number one, with the development agreements and the MOUs with UVM and the hospital, and even Champlain, which isn't our ward, but I mean, all of the institutions I think are, to me, is key. I think that should remain. I hope that moves forward. There is some controversy right now between where housing goes and the amount of open space we have. And I think that I don't know what our opportunity will be like. So that's number 5. So I'm a little bit wondering about that. What's the statement, like the horses out of the barn or whatever for recycling? They already voted on that on Monday, that it's going to get contracted out for 7 years. That doesn't mean that the consolidated program, but that's going to be a process in the next year. So maybe you want to watchdog that. Maybe we want to watchdog that, but those are I don't see anything that I want to add, but I would say that number 1 and maybe number 8 are things that I want to make sure we're not left out of the loop for. There are lots of other things that I always worry about that happen behind the scenes, but those are harder things to address in that format. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Jonathan? Further to Sharon's comment, especially to item number 1, are we still enforcing the rule that was established about 15 years ago that new developments affecting our ward are brought before the NPA before they go to the Planning Commission?
So actually, that isn't the rule, and it's kind of a sleazy thing. But the rule says developers have to have a public meeting in the area that the development is proposed for.
What?
A public meeting, and the way the language is that the preferred venue for that public meeting is the NPA. So that's what's in documentation now. Now, the resolution, the NPA, the relationship between the city and the NPA resolution says that's not enough, and developers do need to come to the NPA for those discussions.
When it was initially established, it was specific to go to the NPA.
Okay, that's not the way the language is right now. If you look at the documentation, it's actually in. Barbara just sent out a revision of the steering committee guidelines, and it's in there. The words themselves are in there. It says, "Yeah, you should do it, but you don't have to do it."
That would be one of my top priorities.
Okay.
So number 1.
Or all development, you're saying?
And we had the guy from U-Haul last year, for instance, correct?
And the guy from U-Haul did come, but the guy from U-Haul formally, the city attorney's office would not have shut them down if they didn't come, as long as they held a public meeting. There was that meeting that was held that somebody stapled up the 8.5 by 11s on the telephone poles over in the old East End, over on Chase Street last year. Yeah. Where they never came to Ward 1, but they said they did due diligence and they could check the box off on their paperwork. And then they held a meeting somewhere.
Supposed to send mailings to the name of the adjacent neighbors. I think they have to do that.
So is there language you want to add? Is there one you want to add that was more specific about that? That all major development, major impact development?
15 years ago when we were implementing it, I thought it was there.
Right.
I don't know what your... It's not an MOU, obviously.
Because I think that the development agreements really stand alone and they're big institutions. And so the amendment you're talking about, I inserted into the process when I was a city councilor about bringing projects to the NPA, and developers pushed back and modified it to being a public meeting or the NPA, because I saw that loophole in the process. But they have to be of a certain size. It's not every project also, and I don't know the language at all now. But anyways, but I think that's a little bit separate, because I don't want to dilute the development agreements. I don't want the city council I want that to be really clear.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
So can we just make a few words out of it? Is it all development projects, all major impact development projects, all?
No, I think the development agreements with the institution.
Well, that stays. That's separate. This is if we add one to this list to vote on.
And I guess I'd look to Richard, because it's what he would like to see for language.
Do you mean you diluted what I thought we'd put in place? I'm not sure about that. Well,
I think it's a question of what.
There are several developments in this area that have come before the NPA that have either been modified to the benefit of the development, I believe, and certainly the community, and one or two others that have been withdrawn because of disingenuous input from developers. If Jean Hopkins is on there, she would remember one about development alongside co-housing on East Avenue, for instance. And we got a little bit of help from the police on that. I don't know the wording because I'm not very good at that.
So could we say commercial development within the ward? Commercial development projects. I mean, if people are putting their ADU on their house or something, we don't want to know about that.
I believe so. Someone else can wordsmith it, but
okay. Well, why don't we just for the sake of moving this forward, commercial and residential. Behind.
Nobody was contacted, as far as I know. And then they sent out a nasty letter in Front Porch Forum saying, don't go on the property.
So I'm just looking for the language. You're right. I don't know what the non-public development, non-private development. It's just a matter of what words we want to use. Major impact is what's in the books right now. But we may want to make it more narrower than major impact. And we could call it significant development, and then it's vague enough that, you know, we can complain that they didn't do it. How about we just say significant development in the ward and leave it at that? What else do we want to add to this list, or what other questions do you have? Julie.
I don't want to add, but if somebody could clarify number 7, the activity impacting Ward 1 infrastructure, like what infrastructure we're talking about?
Oh, putting a roundabout on Pearl Street and Prospect or something, or certainly when they changed all the plumbing on Prospect Street, we heard about it. They came and talked to us about it. But there could be changes. There's something going to happen on Main Street and South Prospect, right? There's some significant development that's going to be happening there in terms of them straightening the roads out or making adjustments. I don't think anybody would plan to come to Ward 1 to talk about that, but maybe they should. So that's what infrastructure would be. And certainly when the conversation was about sending heat up from McNeil to the university, that's major infrastructure. Cyril, did you?
I just want to repeat, I think what Charlie mentioned about use of these portable mics if you would just leave them on all the time, don't play with the buttons. Just, it's better to save the button than save the batteries. Anyway, so my comment is about number 2, the traffic management. It feels to me like in the quote 20 years or whatever I've been part of this group, that's critical. So I'm just trying to give support to number 2. I've just heard about it every year we've been here, that's a major concern for a number of people in our community. So to keep that at number 2, I think is a good idea, or somewhere in that area.
Read. Jean?
Hi, yes, number 2, I'm concerned about improving our bus and public transportation so that we can cut down on a lot of the car traffic. I'm very disappointed, as many are, that the former free shuttle was on College Street was eliminated. So I hope maybe even working with the UVM buses, they send large buses around that maybe the public could use too, you know, just coordinate better.
Both the,
for just number two, kind of going off what Cyril was saying, I would like to see cyclists included in addition to pedestrians. So just being specific about that, if that's all right.
Non-motorists.
Yes.
Okay. Catherine, were you? Oh, okay. Angie.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to emphasize what I think is so important, which is the development agreements, number one. And the development agreements, I mean, that is a very broad statement. With all of the crisis we're having with housing in this community, many of us in Ward 1 believe it has a great deal to do with the number of students who want to live off campus because campus housing is so expensive. And you might want to live off campus because it might be more fun. But be that as it may, I think UVM needs to be made to step up and provide housing for their students and insist on it and not cram them into three rooms when there's only space for two. I mean, I just think that the university needs to be nudged in a very big way about taking some more responsibility for the number of students they're accepting, the amount of money that they're charging those students for living in dorms, and the effect that that has on the city. Because the effect that it has on the city is dire. I mean, there is very little housing available for people who just might want to live here, or for the people who work at the grocery store who might want to live here. And it's unaffordable for many, many people. And I think it has a great deal to do with the way UVM treats its student housing.
Okay. Other suggestions for this list. So let me tell you what's going to happen next is we're supposed to do 3 to 5 of these. What we figure is that everybody should get 3 votes. So I'm just going to read them off and you can raise your hand 3 times. And remember how many times, because we're not going to keep track. It's all on the honor system. But then we're just going to count and the high scores, the high scoring ones win. And if there's ties at the bottom, we'll add more than just the 3. So are there other issues that we think we want to put on this list before we vote? Catherine.
Okay, so the number 8, I know that they determined the recycling, but there's all that conversation going on about whether to have one company pick up waste. So it still is actually very relevant.
Right. This, by the way, we're going to do better at this process next year, but this is an annual process. So one can imagine that personally, I can imagine that there will be very significant waste recycling conversations in the next 5 years, but maybe not in the next 12 months, just because they've kind of pulled the pressure relief on it right now, and they're going to see what it looks like. That's just my total I'm making it up. But yes. But we will do this again next year. So if we miss out this year, we'll get it next year. Anything else? Oh, Sophie.
Sorry, I was just sorry.
Sophie.
Sorry, I have nothing to say. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Good to hear your voice. All right, then why don't we move forward? And so what I'd like is that everybody just vote 3 times. I'll just read them all off. Just you vote 3 times, and and if somebody can count votes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sophie, can you take your hand down and then raise it for the 3 you want? And yes, Carter, you should vote too.
Just asking myself if I'm supposed to vote or not.
Absolutely. Development agreements and MOUs with UVM and the medical center.
1, 2, 3. 11, 12, 13, I think. Oh, okay, 16.
Okay. And if the folks online can put their hands down. Thank you. Traffic management that could impact pedestrians and cyclists.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 2 more, 12.
Tax burden redistribution. Gene, yeah, thank you. Tax burden redistribution.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. Advisory group and ad hoc committee recommendations. Uh-oh.
Flag Valley, huh?
That was one of mine. I burned a vote. Use of parks and development of open space.
Seven.
Municipal development plan. Activity impacting Ward 1 infrastructure.
Come on, people.
I'm using my third one up for that.
Good lobbying there.
That was
So
easy.
1. See the impact you had. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You said we can only have 3 votes.
3 votes.
Okay.
Everybody,
Yeah.
just 3 votes. Waste recycling. City budget.
1,
1,
2,
The school board.
2.
Engagement on significant development. Sorry. 1
2, 3. Okay.
and public transportation issues.
Come on, people.
I didn't know you had added that.
Now,
Be added to number 2 so that I feel good. I like that.
yeah. Okay, is that it?
How do people feel about adding that to number 2? Yeah. Okay. All right. Why don't we just do that? So what's the net here?
So it looks.
We
like
have 1, 2, and 7. And if we want to throw one more in, it would be 5, right? Why don't we do 1, 2, 7, and 5? Okay, just 1, 2, and 7. We could do 5. Why don't we do 5? I mean, the worst case is that city council says we're not going to do this. So that's the worst case. And let's do tax burden redistribution too. Let's just put it there and we can put the votes next to them. Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Carter.
Can you combine 5 and 7?
So, Carter would know, but, you were talking about next year. There was attached to the recycling resolution, there was a timeline that Gene Bergman worked on. And I know that there's going to be a consultant and the group is going to start this coming fiscal year. But it won't be done then. So I just don't want to mislead anybody that you might have a chance if you really care about that item. So Carter and Ally really need to speak to that timeline if you want to add that. That's all.
You're absolutely right, because there is that extra part. So Carter, we're just going to count on you that if something comes back on waste and recycling, that you come bring it to us.
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you. Okay, So I think we have a few minutes to do the next one. We'll just see how that goes. Okay, so as I said, the each NPA in the city has a budget of $3,000. We'll show you in our April meeting sort of the breakout of how we've used it at this point. But for the most part, it's spent on renting this space, which is not a lot of the budget, by the way, and food, which is a lot of the budget. And if you remember the signs that we created, the lawn signs needed to have a little sticker put over because Prospect was misspelled. There's a little money on that. So the bottom line is we have about $1,000 left from this year's. We could just fold that back into the general fund. But these are some options. Keeping in mind, and Barbara was great about reminding me about this, the three top up above, right above there, these three are sort of the requirements that you need to keep in mind when you're spending money, okay? One is that whatever we do has to promote the NPA in some way. Number two, or these are all, they don't have to all be in there, but one of these has to be partnered with each of our activities. Providing residents with information about city programs and activities. And then the third one is gaining input from residents about city needs. Barbara, do you have anything you want to add about those three things? You've disappointed Charlie. You've really disappointed Charlie.
Like one example would be like you could have a tabling event at the park where you're handing out ice cream, as long as there's an element of talking to people about what they need from the city. So it can really, you can get creative with this as long as there's an element of the NPA doing its business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So I should also say that especially Ward 8 has almost $3,000 left over, and they're amenable to sharing with the other wards.
Yeah, we're the only ones that have the rent space. Thank you, Gretchen. Yes, Sharon.
So, I was just thinking, how do we promote the NPA? How do we more effectively promote the NPA? And I have to, true confessions, I've never gone to Winterlude, although I understand it's wonderful. But I was thinking about events that bring people together that don't necessarily come to the NPA and making them aware. So if you are trying to do outreach, I would think that would be a time where you could have some fun information about the NPA. And so I'm trying to think of ways that we can more effectively reach a pool of people that we don't reach now.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think we are constantly trying to get more people to participate so that we can understand what's on people's minds.
Yeah.
And we all can kind of know each other
Yeah.
better because we live in one small section of the city. So I would like to see the $1,000 spent in that way. And that's just one idea. That's just one way. Maybe there are other events that people can think of that would be able to promote them. I know that UVM, I used to be on the city council for people that don't know me. And I did a lot of moving off campus workshops, helping students get from the campus to the community. And it was about learning about ordinances and all this. But in that process, I also learned what UVM did really well. Now, once again, they have a small group of people in relation to the city, but I don't know how we would do this, but they used to have welcome bags.
They do still. Oscar does that.
So
yeah.
Do we do anything like that? And so to me, it's like a laminated thing that you can put on the refrigerator about who to call, just bits of information. I know that's in your phone now, but anyways, you can populate it in your phone, but it gives you that information. It also gives you, so I'm trying to think of ways that we can welcome new people into our community and also ways to get information to people about the NPAs. And so
So what I'm gonna ask Barbara to do is to add to number 1, because we talked about flyers, which is similar to what you're talking about with the magnets. But if we could also add tabling at community events.
Winterlude, because that's
Right.
board.
Right. And or sometimes they're barbecues. We've had barbecues and neighbors. And then also, let's see, what was the, looking at, the flyers or,
How we know when someone new moves in that we could do some welcome.
well, one of the things that we've done, and it's sort of been intermittent, is that when there's a front porch forum and it has somebody who's moved in on the front porch forum, one of the systems we've sometimes done is to reach out to them and to let them know that what the NPA is. And so, I think some of this may be, if I dare use the term bandwidth from my IBM friends, the folks on steering may not have the bandwidth for doing all of these things. So that's something else really to keep in mind for any of these. Is that it's not like, okay, steering, good job. We just elected you, go for it. It ain't going to happen if that's the plan. So that's something to keep in mind too, is just how do we institute some of these things? And that's an easy thing to do without having to come to meetings. That would be, and that's not so easy, but it would be a really helpful thing to do. So there's outreach. We've also talked about a welcome sign to the neighborhood, and maybe, somehow maybe we have on there the NPA, Ward 1 NPA welcomes you to the neighborhood. Beautification projects. Catherine mentioned before that we've had garden projects that we've spent some of our budget money on. Community garden. Rob, feel free to jump in on any of these, okay? Shemanska Park, which is where the Winterlude is. Do you know where Shemanska Park is? Okay. So there may be something down there that we could add. Those fitness trails that you see in different cities. They're expensive. I don't know if that's anything that anybody would be interested in. Holding some kind of community event, whether it's a barbecue, down in Shemanska or anywhere else. Little free libraries. Little free libraries are not, those are all independent. The stewards they're not part of the library that we support. The library does support them. But the little free libraries they've been created and renovation and filling them all sits on the shoulders of the stewards. So if there's some way that we can help support our local little free libraries, both in terms of repair, as well as helping build some. So that's just another idea. Bus stops. I think there was some wonderful angel, right, that created benches for some of the bus stops. And maybe that's something that we look at too. Rob, could you talk about this next one? Because this was your cool idea. The workshops. You need a mic, yeah.
So one possibility would bring in somebody who's a professional that can help us with gardening, learning gardening skills. Pickleball seems to be a topic that is on a lot of people's minds lately, but a lot of people don't know how to get started and play. So maybe a coach. I was just thinking, kind of brainstorming, thinking out of the box of some things we can possibly do to bring.
So we would provide the funds for some kind of an expert to come and provide a workshop for whoever would like to come. So that's another thought. God bless you. And we do have Centennial Woods belongs to UVM. And as you know, you've met Lori Anderson, who's the steward for both that natural area, as well as others. But I'm sure that, if there are people who want to do tours or want to do some work in Centennial Woods, that's something else we could think about too, or other parks in our ward. The zine publication, I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Barbara, would you mind explaining what that is, please?
Yeah, you might have seen some of these floating around. They're like these little comic books about the NPA by Christine Tyler Hill, who's an artist, I think in Ward 2. So she put together this really lovely little outreach comic, like just being like, this is what you can expect if you go to your NPA and how you can get involved in civic life in Burlington. So it's a really great outreach tool, except that it was made about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's pretty much all of the meeting information is out of date. So it's not anymore a great thing to hand out to a new person to say, come to your NPA, because you will give them the wrong time and date. But I reached out to Christine, and she said that she could easily do some edits for us. And if we split it up between the wards, it works out to less than $100 per ward. So I would love to get a couple of wards to contribute towards that.
Great, thank you. So we're reaching the end of our time. So maybe what's happening right now, is any questions you have about these and any additions you'd like to add? And maybe we can extend the conversation to next month, if that's okay, rather than voting on these. The other thing that would be helpful before next month or before we make choices is to know some pricing on any of these. So if there's somebody who's sort of interested in learning out about more about one of these or a couple of these, and is willing to do a little research for us, so that when we look at these and we vote on enough to spend our $1,000, it would be good to have that information next month too. So yes, Gretchen.
I guess piggybacking on what you were saying about the fact that the steering committee is not going to take this and go make it happen. I think what we really need is, yes, find out some costs, but also someone that will take it on and spearhead the one. First, I mean, we could vote and I'll say, great, we love the little library, but then nothing might happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to need someone to own it as part of all this.
Yes, thank you. So that's sort of partnered with it, is what's the cost and who's going to do it? Right, exactly. Thank you, Gretchen. Yes, Sarah.
There may be no cost, or you tell me, about tabling at community events. So my piggyback question is, or comment actually, is building on Sharon's comment about the Wintervale. Seemed like another sort of obvious connection would be Somervale, which is, so I'm assuming that's in our ward. And
no, it's not actually, but we still can, we don't have to table just at our ward, but people come there. I mean, people come from our ward, so. But you're right. Number one is a little different in that, well, see, the flyers would cost money. I think that's why we had it there. The others may not necessarily. The other two things. They do. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Could I speak?
I'm sorry, Sophie?
The Shemanska Park, I understand that you used to meet actually in the barn there, and the barn has total winter heat in it. The barn is definitely not used as much as it could be used either summer or winter, and so certainly it would be great for workshops. Would the NPA like to come from now on, occasionally to meet in Shemanska Park and get new people to come? The barn is wonderful, and it is mostly sitting empty. We give some parties, it's rented for some parties, but it's mostly empty.
Yes. Great. Good point, Sophie. Thank you. So we'll include that in our notes. Okay. Any additions to this list? Yes, Sarah.
I just had a question of, when were we hoping to do these events?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question, because we have to spend the money by May 30, the end of May, right, Barbara?
Technically the end of June, but it would be great if you could submit the charges to me in May.
Yeah. So sometimes we spend and then we do it. So we have to have that in mind.
Well, I feel like some of these could be combined, and just, this might be getting into the weeds, but
yes.
The plant biology department at UVM, they have a course that makes, they grow native plants and they give them away. And it's usually, they're giving them away usually around mid-May. So,
wow.
And they usually have way too many and they're just trying to get rid of them. So
wow,
that could be a great avenue for beautification, garden work that would be free.
So the UVM botany department.
Yeah. It's
Great.
Laura Hill has a program there about native plants and restoration
Laura?
work.
Laura Ho?
Laura Hill, yes.
Hill, okay, great,
Of
thank
course,
you.
I'm in that department too, so I'm happy to coordinate.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other additions here? Sarah?
So I just want to clarify with the what Barbara said, possibly that it only costs us about $100.
Yes.
So if that wants to be edited for number 10.
Okay, to just have it be 100. Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, so this will probably appear on next month's agenda, if that's okay. And we'll publicize this so people can be thinking about it. And then again, if more comes up, that's great. That's great. Okay, thank you all very, very much. Yes, Jonathan. You're sleeping? You sleeping back there?
I also would like to say you started by saying this at the beginning. I don't think we should spend the money if we don't really feel like we're getting our money's worth out of it. The city needs money. We shouldn't waste their money. I don't think there's any shame in giving this money. I think we'd go back to the general fund. It probably doesn't go to the bottom line on the budget, but it couldn't hurt to give the money back to the city if we don't have something good to do with it. So I think we should be thoughtful about how we spend this. That's all.
And it can be item number 11. I mean, that's the choice that we make, that it goes back to the general fund. Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right, I guess, so Carter? You there, bud? There you are.
Hello.
Hi. So I don't see Ally. I'm not sure if she's communicated with you. She can't make it. Okay.
Yeah, I spoke. Allie's at a benefit, immigration benefit that she works at the Flynn is her day job.
Great.
So
Okay.
is there, which is a great event going on.
Great. So if you could do your report, that'd be great. You have about, let's see, 20 minutes?
Yep, I'll try to be brief and then maybe just take questions. A few things, and I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have the option to do my video on this setup, so I apologize for that. And I also should just say I apologize for being remote. We've got a bunch of yeah, I don't know. I thought it was 24-hour bugs, and they seem to keep extending in my house from our 2 young children. Anyway, so council updates. I mean, the main thing we just voted on most recently was recycle. So the city decided to accept a bid from Casella. So for the next 7 years, they will be picking up recycling. I voted against this. It was an 8-4. Hope, is there big feedback?
Okay. Okay, so it's not me. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Am I all good?
Good and loud, Carter.
Okay, all right, there we go. Yeah, I mean, I voted against this. 8 of my colleagues disagreed with that vote. Personally, I was just really skeptical. I'm really nervous about realistically, are we actually ever going to have publicly run consolidated waste model in the city? And I think this was just a step away from that. And ultimately, I think that's going to be the cheapest option, best for consumers, and have the most democratic control. And I think this, waste collection, compost, trash, recycle, is just one of those vital utilities that should be operated as a public good. And there is as part of like the compromise to get to 8 votes, a committee was put together, and some folks have already referenced it tonight. But essentially that will be studying there's sort of 3 models on the table. There's the subscription model, which is what happens with trash right now. There's a bunch of private companies, individual consumers go to those private companies and, say, I'm going to pay you $60 a month or whatever it is. And you're going to pick up my trash on this regular interval. We do that with compost currently as well. There's the consolidated model, which is private, which is one company, the city says, you know, this is a sort of natural monopoly and we're going to regulate this so that one company picks up. I mean, you could do it sector by sector, but the idea is that we would combine all of them. So one company would be picking up our recycle, trash, and our compost. The benefit to the consolidated model versus the subscription is that it greatly reduces truck emissions, because instead of having 7 different trucks, you got one truck going down our neighborhoods to pick up waste. It also is just a quality of life thing in terms of noise, and then also impact on our built infrastructure. Our roads will, you know, wear down quicker when you have these giant trucks and the volume of these number of these folks going, and they all tend to be on different, you know, different companies have different days of the week. So I know, like, at least you know, on trash pickup weeks, I've got at least 2 or 3 days out of the week where we've got trash trucks going down our road. What I'm going to be pushing for and what I'm in favor of for a number of different reasons, which I don't have to get into and belabor the point, but is a consolidated model for the climate benefits and quality of life benefits, but that is publicly owned and operated. And in order to do that really properly, what we need to do is sort of spin off a new enterprise fund. And this is, the enterprise fund is essentially like what our water department or our, you know, Burlington Electric are both enterprise funds. So they're money that's sort of separate from the city general fund, our city budget. And it essentially acts as a sort of, I mean, for lack of a better term, like a public corporation. But it's publicly owned. We run it, we own it. And you know, through our water department, through our electric department, we have some of the cheapest utility rates in the region in New England. New England has pretty high utility rates compared to many parts of the country. We've been able to pursue, and even in the last few years, expand greatly various affordability programs to make things cheaper for folks, you know, working in middle-class folks. So I won't belabor that more, but that's definitely something I'm going to be following and putting some energy into moving forward. The council decided not to put forward a ballot item around the homestead exemption, which I think I mentioned last time. I wasn't at the last NPA meeting, but the one prior. So that didn't go to the ballot as an advisory question. And what did come out of some of those conversations was a sort of agreement on how we're going to negotiate as a council, is I guess how we would put it. We're going to create a special committee, in this past, I think 11-1. We're going to have this special committee that's going to talk about tax fairness. And there's going to be 2 folks from either end of the city council, the 2 city council caucuses, and a representative from the mayor's office. I'm going to serve on that committee alongside Laura, and then I think it's going to be Buddy and Ben as well from the council side. And so we're going to try to get to some agreement where we can get something in front of voters that's meaningful on tax fairness reform. So I'm frustrated so far, to be totally, you know, transparent, that wasn't put in front of voters. I do not see the justification whatsoever that we weren't allowed to vote on that in town meeting day. And this is at least a path to continue the conversation. And I think there's an opportunity to get something meaningful through. So that's what I'm trying to focus on moving forward on that front. We talked a little bit about it already. Plan BTV 2050. I'm serving on the advisory committee for that, which is a group of city councilors. I think there's 4 different city council committees represented, because I think it's me, Mark, Allie, and Jean are all on there from the council, but for different reasons, or from different council committees. A bunch of city staff, the folks who, the consultant that the city's using on the project, as well. And essentially it's us, you know, being representative of different parts of the city and different stakeholders as we talk about Plan BTV 2050, giving advice to the folks carrying out that work. So today we had a meeting actually this morning, and they sort of outlined for us their plan around community engagement, and then asked for feedback, asked for ideas, and laid out some of the timeline there. I know that April 30th, and I think we're still waiting there, you know, there'll be more information put out, but They're still waiting to confirm the location, but I think it's going to be at City Arts. April 30th, they're going to have a big sort of open house. And then some of the stuff we talked about in terms of how do you really make sure that residents are genuinely involved and that we're sort of involving folks from all parts of the community. They're going to do a mailed survey, I think is confirmed now. They're using that's statistically accurate or representative of the city. I think it's going to go out to a couple thousand residents, and they're expecting, 300 to 500 range of actual responses for that to be successful, to get some input. And then, we talked about a number of ideas, but one of the things I was pushing for was, and we talked a little bit about, was sort of pop-up engagement, because there's, many of us are the people who go to those kind of open house events when a city department puts something on or is talking about a city plan or something like that. And so making sure that we sort of, just really get out there and engage a broader swath of the community than just the folks who always show up. Although I love us and I think we're great, I also think it's important that, folks who often aren't engaged are going to be really impacted by it. So we ought to try to engage them the best we can. With that, I'm seeing if I'm missing anything. I don't think so. I think those are the sort of big, most recent sort of topics in front of the council, but I'm open to, and I should say the city budget as well. I'm sorry. We're definitely talking about the city budget. We've been talking about it for a few months now. I have an informational session on Friday this week that I'm going to attend in the early morning to get an update, and then have, it's sort of an opportunity for counselors to provide feedback. We've had a number of different avenues so far to do that and sort of get an update on how we're developing the budget. We again have a gap coming up on 10 million. The voter approved increase to the public safety tax will help, but that represents about $3 million. And so we're still looking at somewhere in the neighborhood on average, and it's not going to be perfectly 5 to 10% for every department, but we're getting different scenarios of every department cutting by 5%, cutting spending by 10%. We aren't at this point including fire or police in that because those staffing levels are so low. Both of those departments are finding like ways that they can save money, but we sort of said that any I don't want to say essential because I don't think that's the right word, but again, we need a fire department and a police department at a core sort of level as city government. So those are sort of not on the table as of now. So I will stop ranting with that and just turn it over to questions.
Questions? Yeah, a couple minutes for questions for Carter. Anyone have question? Okay, I don't see anyone out here or online, Carter. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Carter, so much. I appreciate it very, very much. Hopefully you stay well and everyone in your house gets better. Take care. Thank you, Carter. So Matt and Gary, if you guys could come up, we'll have a report from the school commissioners.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Perhaps to start out,
Yes.
just thank you for participating in the election. Congratulations to Carter and myself for, I'm sorry, that's not the way to put it. Thank you for voting for us. We're both.
It's a
were
close
able to
race.
It was, and I was expecting a write-in. I voted for Carol and write-in, so I thought there'd be more, but anyway. But congratulations, Carter, for your reelection. Do you want to talk about
Sure.
that?
And thank you so much for passing our school budget. It passed with 67 or 61? 67%. Which is great. It it just gives a lot of certainty and a lot of clarity for how our school district can move forward. And also thank you so much for voting for the stipend. Just a reminder that stipend does not increase tax revenues or take anything out of the school budget. It's repurposing funds that were already allocated for the school board to just be distributed to school board members, which does go a ways in helping individuals who have young children are in the school or are in the schools. And I can certainly testify over the past year of serving on the school board that it is no joke having to leave your family when you have small children at home in the schools at 5:30 and then tell your loving partner and beg for forgiveness each month that you will be back well after bedtime. And she's doing it again tonight, so I appreciate her time as well. So, but having those additional resources can help to sort of compensate, to help overcome buy dinner, pay for childcare, assist in those ways. So that's a big help, which then increases the opportunities for other people who may have not been able to serve on the school board to be able to do so in the future. Other things we talked about, and increasing the school budget is a big help again. Just as regards to sort of the way our budget, the way our district handles the finances. In the last meeting, we went over an audit. Our district undergoes an annual audit every year and received very high marks from the auditors, which has been the track record for the last decade. And that's important to note, that the money that is being allocated to the school district is being managed and stewarded and overseen in a responsible and thoughtful way, with no concerns really in how the money is being administered. And so just to know that the voting for the school budget increase and voting for the school budget, you're trusting the finances in people in very capable hands. That's really appreciated. And then the last thing I'll mention, and then Gary, if you have anything else, was that there's been a lot of articles lately about just the performance of Vermont public schools in regards to the core academic components of literacy and mathematics. And our district is no exception to the challenges that the state has seen. So many of the articles have been highlighting the decline in poor performance in reading and math skills. I think it's about half of Vermont students are reading at grade level. And about 40% are performing in mathematics at grade level. And in our district, we're seeing comparable levels. About the third grade, it's about a coin flip again if a student is able to read on grade level. And about a quarter are doing math at grade level at third grade. And so as part of the school board work is that the school board is reinstated with the support and guidance of the superintendent, has reinstituted a curriculum committee to really try to have school board members try to dive in and work with the central office to figure out how we can turn things around from a curriculum perspective to really improve the academic mission of our school district. And the people who will be on that committee are the two folks who are sitting right here. So we will both be sort of leading that committee as well. We're happy to provide updates about how we can improve things, the academics in our school district. So I will leave it there for my comments. Gary, do you have any?
Probably an immediate concern. The other committee I'm on is the finance committee. We are looking at about $2.5 million of remaining capital improvements that need to be done. Other than the new building, we don't have a building in the district newer than the mid-70s. And so roofs are going out, HVAC systems are decaying. The good news is we had a pretty large, I had to be educated about this last night. I'll do timeline. So as the board was looking at, and the administration gearing up to build the new high school, we pulled all the available capital funds from prior bonds to put toward the high school. Well, now we have money left over partially because of that. And the thought is that, we will begin to talk to the public about repurposing that money into these projects. Some of it will be obvious repair work. Like I said, I think Champlain has a roof and a rooftop HVAC system that's just going. So there are about, I think, 8 projects that when the building grounds looked at them, said they were number 1 on their list. So that's what we'll be looking at. Other than that, I think, the test scores are concerning. There's research out there, maybe why, but the reality is they are. So, I think that will definitely be our administration is coming with a 3-year plan, and that's what we'll be reviewing about how to address that. How do we, part of it's just been this age-old conflict between those who love teaching phonics, think phonics is the way, against those who feel like do whole language, where you're recognizing whole words, slicing them together to form a sentence. So that's sort of what we have found ourselves kind of a victim of, that we were a whole language, and it really, the test, worked out. And part of why we know that now is because we test better than we may have when, like, our daughter was going to her. So that's where we are right now. Let me do a little quick state update. Martine Gulick is one of our now outgoing board members, who's a state senator, is not, and from a report last night, for us coming up to crossover, which is where House bills go to the Senate, Senate bills go to the House for consideration. There doesn't seem to be a lot of urgency for bills out there, and that for a Senate, particularly leadership that has really made that their outgoing legacy, that's concerning to me, that there isn't that urgency. I think there's going to be another reconciliation bill, is my guess, but I don't want to conjecture more than that. There'll be more obvious a month from now where the status is, because that will be the crossover deadline. So, questions? Rich?
Yeah. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Matt. I was wondering whether you read the 7 days empty desks report and whether you recognize the numbers in terms of enrollment and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The fact that we have room for, I think it's 1,150 students in the high school, but only 850 to be enrolled in the high school. So some of what you say doesn't really jive. So if you have that capacity, what are you going to do with it? Sooner or later, you're going to have to get rid of a school. When is that? I'm not used to middle schools, so I have a personal preference for 6 to 12 being in a high school and the rest being in an elementary school.
School teacher, that's nothing.
Well, but I mean, you've got bricks, got bricks and mortar, and the community. I vote for all the school budgets since I've been able to vote, but the community has been really, really, really good to Burlington School District over the last 10 years, and sooner or later, I think we need to know that that money is being well spent proportionately to the enrollment that we have. Sharon Busher is not here, but she's been waving that flag. We can't build the houses for the students to live in to go to the schools. And sooner or later, I'm not asking you now, but the school district is going to have to come, I think, to the community and saying, this is how we're going to consolidate. This is how we're going to save money. This is how we're going to obviate or mitigate against having to repair a roof at Champlain. You have spent millions on remediating Wheeler, right in an area where we need affordable housing. And so that, that's water under the bridge. But I do believe that the school district needs to come to the community and say what their plans are to consolidate. And it's not easy. And I've been coming to these NPAs for about 25, 28 years. And by a huge amount, I don't know who remembers Lyman Amsden, but when he was superintendent, he wanted to revise the districts and catchment areas for children to go to certain schools. And the attendance at Waterman for that NPA meeting where he was going to describe it was at the door. So it's highly contentious, and I think the community is owed an explanation of what you're going to do.
Okay. You do go first.
That's
No, we can answer some of it.
we can. I will say that we're aware of the reduction in numbers, and I think that it's a statewide challenge. I think I sort of have there within the school district, and in the last 2 school board meetings ago, the superintendent did mention that the prospect of closing a school is going to be something that we're going to discuss and look forward to going forward, purely because of enrollment numbers. And that wouldn't necessarily mean that we would have to let go of all of the teachers in the school, but rather the enrollment numbers suggest that we could serve all of the students in the district with one fewer school, and those teachers would get redistributed to other schools, but it would reduce the facilities costs associated with keeping that school open. That's sort of as far as the discussions have gone, but it's publicly stated that this is something that's being actively considered. I think also just regards to the broader article, I think it's a real challenging issue. And I think one thing I would just say, and this is sort of getting outside the school board role, but we just need to be able to build more housing sort of across the state. And we need to just allow more housing development for families that can move here with kids. The cost of housing in Burlington is astronomical, and the tax burden is astronomical. I don't have to tell anyone in this room, we all pay our tax bills, it's coming on tax season. It's just really high. And I know of several families that have small children who are leaving Burlington because it's just too expensive to live here. And they are pulling their kids out of the school district, not because they don't want to stay here, but because they just can't afford it. And I think this is one of those solutions where where you can't get more blood from a turnip, or so to speak, or blood from a beet. I don't know what vegetable it was, but it's a turnip. I struggle to see a better solution than just increasing the tax base. So if we were able to get more folks to move to Burlington and live here and be part of our community and own housing and pay tax dollars and send their kids to our schools, it would make a massive difference. So I'm going to get off on that soapbox, and I would say that as that was a personal Matt Price comment, not a Matt Price School Commissioner comment.
So I'll be quick. There was, we've been highly reliant on the refugee resettlement programs for our population for the last, I was in the district in 2005 when the Somali Bantu wave hit, and we had to add a classroom to every elementary school in the city. We leveled out on student population while the rest of the state declined during that period. Now with those programs pretty much being redlined by the federal government, we really didn't know that when we were building up the high school. So that's one huge issue, birth rate declining precipitously in some cases, and locally and housing have added. And then there was this little myth that our school builder said that in their experience, other school districts that built out saw increase in people moving into the city to attend. And so those are the moving parts. We are aware about what we need to do. I was a part of the discussion in 2007 to close a school. And you're right. And that was pre-Lyman. That was Jeannie's attempt. Yes, it was. And it wasn't planned well. It was a model around combining, like Essex Junction, where you have area schools for grades rather than a local. And it just, no, it didn't fly. So yes, we likely will start talking about that this year, starting with the finance committee and then moving into the board and then locally to look at that. And there is an obvious school that has not been repaired, and that's by code can't, if we were to build that school again, we couldn't open it because the dynamics within the classrooms aren't, they're not up to code. So it's going to be talked about, and it will be a public process. Catherine, that'll be the last.
So I'm a lifelong educator, and I got my degrees at UVM during the time when humanism was really the center of much of the coursework. And the teaching that I did involved a lot of that. So what I've noticed being in this area for so many years is that the state of Vermont has shifted at times in looking at education from a quantitative perspective versus a qualitative perspective. And so an example of that is when No Child Left Behind was kind of rearing its head, the state of Vermont put in the portfolio system in order to quiet maybe that quantitative approach, or at least offer another perspective. It seems to me from these statistics that we're back looking at quantitative, that we judge an educational institute by how the students are testing in these two core subjects. And could that be the result of the fact that there's so much focus on money these days, not having enough money, not having enough students and enrollment, not having taxes being so high, just all of the focus that's not having enough housing, not having enough, that puts us more thinking about quantity and not quality. And I guess I would really like to hear a report. I don't need to hear it tonight, about what is the quality of the school life in Burlington, not just based on statistics and testing.
I would go back and say, I appreciate your comment. And I think a lot of people voice this concern and this comment about, well, the numbers say this, but what does that really mean? And I think I view it as the numbers about whether or not a child is reading at grade level or doing math at grade level says nothing about how that child is as a human being. But it does say that that child cannot read and that child cannot do math, and that is something that our school system needs, and that is the key, as we know from so much work, is the key to a successful future, is having those fundamental skills, those fundamental academic skills. And I would say that the quality of the skills that we are imparting upon our students to prepare them for a future life as a member of our community is lacking. Because when we have 50% of third graders able to read, they can't access novels and material in the fourth grade. They can't access great literature. They can't access current event articles in the fifth grade. They can't write book reports. They can't do book reports. In the sixth and seventh grade, they are hamstrung because they're not having the fundamental skills that they need to be successful. And I think that our school districts are doing an outstanding job of focusing on social and emotional development and emotional well-being and making sure everyone feels included. I think where we're seeing them struggle is giving students these core academic skills that they need to become functioning members of our community, in terms of being able to read the pamphlets, to read the flyers that we want to have, understand what it means when we talk about a homestead tax increase, access that material. That's sort of where I concern, is that we are not doing a great job of preparing our students for a future if they don't have those core skills of functional literacy and functional mathematics.
Okay, so I guess I just have one question about that. Can you actually say that if a child does not test well, they can't read?
I would say that the number of students who are not testing well indicates that there is a significant concern in the academics within the district, within the state. I would say also too that the Burlington School District was very kind to provide a breakout of the performance at each school in terms of reading scores between kids on free and reduced lunch and kids who are not on free and reduced lunch. And there's about a 60-point gap between those kids. And that's where our test scores are coming down. It's that the kids who are coming from disenfranchised backgrounds, from families that are below the poverty line, are really struggling to access the content there. And to me, that sort of speaks to where we really need to, where we have a fundamental mission to help these kids who are coming from backgrounds that don't have the advantages that the kids who come from a non-free reduced lunch household does, to really be able to access academics and curriculum and to be able to be successful and have a profound future.
I'm going to need
Okay.
to stop us here for Jacob's presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Jacob, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're feeling well enough. We certainly can, again, as I wrote you, we certainly can move, if that makes sense, if you don't feel well enough, that we can move this to another day. I do want to just say to my audience, we had set aside a good 25 minutes for Jacob's presentation. We've only got 15 left. Please know that at 8:30, when we normally adjourn, please, I will stop for a moment to give you a chance to leave if 8:30 really needs to be your time. And, we certainly want to respect that. Jacob Flanagan, if you could get us started with your presentation, that would be great. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there, but I don't think you want me there. Hi, my name's Jacob. I'm your energy nerd neighbor, and I've been thinking about how I can help address the climate crisis, and one of the ways I'm trying to do that is to share what knowledge I've learned to my neighbors. And so I've got a really little screen of you all. I can see you, and I'm gonna make you participate some. So raise your hand if you personally burn fossil fuels. Raise your hand. Okay, yeah, we've got some people. Now, raise your hand if you would like to personally not burn fossil fuels if you could. Okay, good, because this is what this presentation is about. I like that. That's great. Okay, so why are we doing this? So the climate crisis, right? There's a lot of complicated things about it. One of the not complicated things is we kind of have to stop burning fossil fuels. So it's an important place to start. And I should explain this image, as it might be distracting you. This is an AI generated image. I asked AI, hey, can you give me an image for this presentation about transitioning from appliances that burn fossil fuels to greener appliances? And it's getting there. It's all right. Let's see. How do I press? Oh, here we go. So we're talking about appliances. Why? Because they're big ticket items, and which means hopefully they last you a really, really long time, right? You buy a furnace, you hope that lasts 10, 20 years. And if it burns fossil fuels, that means you're locked into buying and burning and supporting the infrastructure, those fossil fuels for the next 10, 20 years. And, you know, hopefully we don't do that, right? We don't have that much time. So how do we break that cycle and not support that infrastructure, which and then incentivize us to burn more fossil fuels? So if you don't remember anything about this, that's okay. You can go back to this later. But just remember this is I want to impart on you the importance of thinking ahead of time, making a plan. Because so often, when do we replace these items? We replace them when they break. And when they break, we need those things, right? We need the hot water. We need to heat our home. And so we don't have the luxury to figure out a different solution. We have to just get something quickly that works. So making a plan earlier allows us to make that transition that we want, allows us to break that cycle that locks us into fossil fuel burning. Also, so why I kind of put this presentation together is I had an aha moment of like, well, there's options. There's a complete suite of options. A home could not burn fossil fuels anymore. And there's some great incentives too. Okay. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to focus just on those appliances that burn fossil fuels in a typical home. So a dryer, stove, hot water, and furnace. There's lots of other cool things we could talk about, but we've got to go home, right, at 8:30. So we're going to focus on these things that are in our house, in a typical house. We're also going to talk a lot about heat pumps. Heat pump is a device that moves heat from one place to another. So a fridge is a heat pump, right? It takes the heat out of your food and puts it back in your kitchen. That's why it's all hot on the back, right? Or an air conditioner takes the heat out of your house and puts it outside. But when people typically say heat pump, what they're talking about is a particular heat pump that takes heat from the outside air or from the ground and then puts it into your house to warm up your house. And these have actually been around for a while, particularly in southern states, where they have central air conditioners that can provide cooling in the summer, but also provide heating in the winter. But they've typically not been that efficient, particularly when temperatures got below freezing. But why are we talking about them now is because over the past decade, they've advanced much, much more and have gotten a lot more efficient, particularly as temperatures get colder. And they're able to really produce really efficient heat, even in sub-zero temperatures. And, you know, if you compare it to other sources of heat, they're 2 to 4 times more efficient. So it's just like, it's a huge technology boost. And I'm going to be saying the word heat pump a lot. Well, actually, so I'm going to have to try. This is going to be a little tricky over the virtually, but I'm going to point to you when I do this. I'm going to have you say the word heat pump for me so I don't have to say it too much. Is that all right? Can we do that? Can we test it out right now? I'm going, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. Well, let's try that again. I think I got a couple of people. Let's see if I can get more. 1, 2, 3. Heat pump. Oh, that was really good. I really like that. Okay, thank you. Also, just a little word about incentives. So I'm not going to talk about the details too much, but on each of the slides, there'll be incentives that I've kind of just coalesced and put all together here. When I first did this presentation, the Inflation Reduction Act had just gone out, and I was so excited, high on life, right? Because there's lots of federal incentives. Those got swept away, unfortunately, by the big, beautiful bill. But fortunately, we still have a lot of great incentives locally from the Burlington Electric Department. So you'll see on the slides this this kind of bluish color for when those apply. Okay, you guys, we're going to talk about appliances, home appliances. Are you ready? So how do you dry your clothes? Well, if you have an electric dryer, you're done. You're not personally burning fossil fuels in your home for that. So that's great. But what if you've got a gas dryer? Well, one option is to switch to electric dryer, very readily available, lots of different models, but you will need to have an electrician put in a 240-volt outlet. Another great option is a clothesline. This is how I dry most of my clothes. You can do it inside, you can do it outside. You could fit a lot of clothes on a clothes rack. I know in my house and a lot of people's houses, in the winter, your house is super dry. It's just a great environment to dry clothes and maybe boost the humidity by 1% in your house too. But it does need some space. It does need some space. The new fancy thing, are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3. A heat pump dryer is the new fancy thing that you can get. And these are cool. These guys, you could get models that just plug right into a normal outlet. Also, I should say, how does this work? It's like a dehumidifier. It's the same idea as a dehumidifier, except instead of dehumidifying your basement, you're going to dehumidify your clothes. And like I said, you could get ones that plug into the wall. There's no vent. You don't have to vent to the outside, so you don't have to drill a hole in your wall or figure out how to get it to the exterior wall. You can buy them as washer dryer combos. So it's a good option for small places or apartments where a normal setup wouldn't fit. It does have condensate, so you need to drain it, or you need to empty out the container after you do your laundry. And it takes a little bit longer than a normal dryer. They do cost more, but Burlington has some good rebates for it. Okay, moving on to stoves. Again, if you have electric stove, you're all set. But if you've got a gas stove, you could switch over to electric. There's a whole bunch of different options, just like in the gas version. There's cheap ones, there's expensive ones, all sorts of different things. You do need an electrician to install a 240-volt outlet. But also you don't have to worry about carbon monoxide emissions because you're not going to burn, you're not burning fuel. If you are a cooking snob, and you know who you are, if you're a cooking snob and you say, I can't do electric stoves, this is for you. This is what you want. You want an induction cooktop. If this is like cooking on a fire pit, this is cooking on electric, this is cooking on gas, this is cooking on induction. It's just so much a better experience, cooks faster, more responsive, more safe. It never gets hot, so you could just wipe spills off without burning. It's really cool. You could tell I've got one of these. I wasn't really intending to, but I was getting rid of my gas stove and I went for this, and I wasn't expecting it, but it's like I'm excited about an appliance. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. They are expensive. There is a Burlington rebate for it. But if you're not looking to put down the change for it, or if you're not have the ability to swap out your stove, but you're interested, you could just get a hot plate to test it out. So you can get these on Amazon, or if you want to shop local, you can go to Homeport and get one of these guys. They're not that expensive. You just plug it into the wall, and you can use it as your main burner and see what this induction thing is all about. Of course, there's just so many cooking gadgets you can have, probably too many cooking gadgets, right? That are all great ways of doing it. Microwaves, super fast, toasters, the whole thing. There's lots of options, right? If we put our head to it. Okay, moving from the kitchen to the basement. We have a couple of different varieties of electric hot water heaters. And the nice thing about electric hot water heaters is, one, you're not combusting gases again, so you don't need a chimney or a flue or some kind of way to get those gases out of your home, which is a nice thing. Like I said, there's 3 flavors. The first one is resistive. That's the old-time electric hot water heater. They're super cheap, super available, but they're very expensive to run. They use a lot of electricity. On the other end of the spectrum is the newer, the heat pump hot water heaters. They're certainly more expensive to buy, but they're more efficient, so they cost less to operate. And they also, it's a nice little perk. They give you a little bit of dehumidification too. And then there's the hybrid version, which has both resistive and the heat pump. And why would you want that? Well, if you're nervous that the magic of heat pump isn't real, you can have that resistance backup. Really, the hybrid and the heat pump only ones are about the same price, so it doesn't really matter that much. And there's lots of great EED rebates for the heat pump models. Okay. Let's talk about this. This is a lot of words. Even the picture has words on it. But I want to, this first bullet kind of talks about a great program of, you can get the gas company to come in, take out your old gas hot water heater and put in an electric heat pump hot water heater. Electric heat pump hot water heater that doesn't use gas. And they'll lease it to you, the use of it. You know, they have that lease program, and they'll put the lease payments on the gas bill. Go figure. And this is, I think, a great option, particularly for rental places, rental units, because, you know, a landlord putting in new equipment it's hard to justify because they're not going to get a return on it. They're not using it, so it's a cost to them. And a renter, they're not going to buy a hot water tank for 20 years because they're probably not going to be there. So having Vermont Gas own the hot water system and then just charge the lease on the bill allows the current renter who's benefiting from it to pay for the use of it. It's a great idea. Okay. All right, let's talk about space heating now. And like hot water heating, there's the three varieties. There's the electric resistance, which is cheap to buy, expensive to operate. There's the heat pump version. I'm sorry, I should have been pointing to you guys to help me say heat pump, but we'll keep going. There'll be more opportunities. There's the heat pump version, which is more expensive to buy, but cheaper to operate because it's more efficient. And then there's hybrid systems, right, that have both. So first off, we've got electric resistance. And electric resistance baseboard is not really allowed for most cases in Vermont because it's so expensive. There's a kind of renter protection issues on this and also just energy efficiency code issues. So it's not allowed in most cases, but anybody can get a space heater, right, from the hardware store and plug it in. I wouldn't recommend heating your whole house with them because, again, it would be very expensive and you'll probably trip a bunch of breakers. But it could be a really great option to just warm up one room. Say if you're working from home, you don't want to heat the house all day. Well, let's just heat this one room with a space heater, and that's a really easy option. Also, quick, easy insurance. You know, if your heating system goes down, you just want to keep the basement from freezing. Let's talk about heat pumps. There are a lot of different kinds of heat pumps. But this picture shows us what the typical heat pump outdoor unit looks like. The important thing to know about is that we're talking about cold climate heat pumps. These are the ones that are efficient in our cold weather. And they can work, they're rated to work down to -15 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is, I don't know if we're ever going to see -15 degrees Fahrenheit ever again. So these guys are going to serve us well here. If you are worried that, you know, maybe it's going to get that colder than that, or maybe you undersized your system, you can add a little bit of electric resistance backup to handle Arctic blast or something like that. So there's lots of great ways to package these things. Okay, let's kind of look at a couple of different versions of heat pumps here. There's window units. These are pretty nascent. It's going to be a little bit hard to find, but they are available and there's more coming. And there's a good way, again, to just add in to a home without messing with the existing heating system. If you're going to look for something like this, definitely be sure, again, to look for cold climate, because you can get window air conditioner units that provide heating, but really they just have a electric resistance strip in there and are no better than a space heater. So you really need to make sure you're getting one that's cold climate. But when you call up a contractor and say, hey, I want a heat pump, they say, yeah, you should have a heat pump. What they're thinking most of the time are these mini splits. These are the most common kinds of heat pumps we see in our market. They're super efficient. They're the most efficient out on the market. And yeah, we've got a lot of contractors now that have a lot of experience installing these. The outside unit is like the one we saw in the picture a couple of slides ago. And then inside, we've got a couple of different looks. This one on the right, this is the wall-mounted unit. This is the most typical because it's the cheapest, right? But there's a lot of different flavors. Here's a nice ceiling mount. You can get baseboard mount. Lots of different things you can do. You can have just one of them, or you can have a bunch of them coming from one outdoor unit to a bunch of indoor units. One of the little drawbacks I've noticed in our older houses, our older housing stock where we have little rooms, is it's a little bit tough to design these for little rooms. They do like open floor plans better if they match those well, but it's not impossible. As you can see, there's lots of different rebates for these models. Something that we're seeing more of, and I think we're going to see a lot of, is these direct replacement. Take that furnace out, put in a heat exchanger that's connected to your, are you guys ready for it? 1, 2, 3.
Heat pump. Heat
pump. And you've got your duct system working again, and it's producing heat, and it's also producing air conditioning too. So this is a great way to reuse your duct system that you already have. Again, there's lots of different rebates going on. They're going to vary a lot by the efficiency of the unit that you buy. Burlington Electric is really pushing the most efficient of the models. So take their money off for it. Get the efficient one. And lastly, we in Burlington, we have a lot of people that have baseboard or radiant floors. These are called hydronic systems because they've got water going through them. And again, you could do a swap out. Take the boiler out, put it in a heat exchanger that's connected to the heat pump. Now, these are definitely not that. They are more common in other countries, but there's very few contractors that know about or are comfortable with this. So if this is you, just know that you're going to have to be more patient to find the right contractor. You won't be able to just call up anybody and be able to get this from them. They are a little more complicated, but certainly doable. Okay, guys, we're cruising through this. This is the end. This is where we get questions, but also, like you go, I don't remember half the things he just said. We just cruised through all that, and I couldn't read any of those slides. That's all right. Just Google up Ward 1 NPA meeting minutes, and they'll have this presentation attached to the meeting minutes. And so you can come in here. The first one of these links is to the Burlington Electric Department's rebate webpage, which is a great website that has all their different rebates that really organized. It's a great thing. And with that, I'll leave it to you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk more.
Questions for Jacob?
I'm curious about, I think one of your last slides that you said was difficult to find local contractors for the boiler replacement. I think it was called hydronic. So I'm guessing that has nothing to do with geothermal, but I don't know that.
Oh, yeah, a great clarifying question. So this is, so a heat pump, it can grab heat from the outside air, or it can grab heat from the ground through like a water loop or something. And when it's grabbing it through a water loop, that's called geothermal. For this slide, this is talking about if you're using water to distribute heat in your house. So if you have baseboard in your house, or if you have a radiant floor, that's water being piped around through your baseboard or under your floor, hot water that's circling around in your house to heat up your house. So that's what this is talking about.
And it might be appropriate in commercial settings as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jacob? Thank you, Jacob. Thank you so very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And particularly knowing that all this information is going to be available on our minutes. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Hope you feel better.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.